Why is it not Scotch?
Because it's not from Scotland.
M&H. Is that the distillery?
Milk and honey.
Milk and Honey
Milk
Distillery.
and honey.
Tel Aviv, Israel.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm probably going to be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were the first distillery
I think so.
to produce whiskey there. They're not the only one, but they are probably the most famous one, the most popular one. This is a pretty expensive bottle for a 3-year-old.
150.
But it's got a little bit of uniqueness to it because it's called the Dead Sea bottle. And why is it the Dead Sea bottle?
It's the lowest level of the Dead Sea is the lowest level they can actually distill or actually age whiskey, right?
So they took the whiskey to the Dead Sea to age it, which has some interesting climate
It's
perspectives.
like 17 miles, but
50
still,
degrees.
it's a specialized climate.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hot.
And so 3 years at 50 degrees C.
This is a single malt, right? Is this
It
a single
is,
malt?
yeah. And the ABV is 56 too.
Ooh, that's spicy.
Yeah, there's a little bit of spice to it.
It's got some sweetness though. It's
Do we know the barrels? What kind of barrels they use?
I
I think
believe
it says it on here.
it's bourbon barrels, I believe.
3 years.
Non-color
it doesn't
added,
smell like a 3-year-old whiskey.
No.
non-chill.
Well, and is it just me or it smells more refined
It does.
than I would normally like. Normally, when you get a 3-year-old whiskey, and it doesn't really matter where it's from, it's usually
Grassy.
got that like just
Cooked
I don't
that
know,
out.
just weird. Yeah, I mean it smells sweet and very approachable.
That single malt's just wonderful, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, there's that bready body to it.
it's super malty and oaky to me. Like,
And there's sweetness on the nose, but I'm not getting like a really pungent anything. Nothing's really standing out.
no.
It just
And it doesn't smell like 56%.
I get a little bit of
But it's strong like bull.
Well, there's a bull on it.
That's right.
We're gonna find out.
All right,
let's get it.
To the palate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He is strong like bull.
That just keeps on coming. That's waves of flavor.
Oh my goodness.
Long finish too.
Still,
that's really
are you
interesting.
getting cinnamon too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I had like waves of different kinds of spices coming through. It was it's a lot to take
Wow.
in, to be honest. But I will say, like, usually if it's a non-peated whiskey, if you get up into like close to 60%, it's usually a little too strong for me to get to the flavors.
Mhm.
But this has so much flavor going on that I didn't have any trouble
Nope.
pulling stuff out. I mean, it's a lot. I got the sweetness up front. It had like a red hot thing going on for a
Yes.
second.
Yes.
And then that kind of faded away into just like more flat cinnamon, like a baked cinnamon. It's really, really
Bready
good.
too.
Yeah. And almost overwhelming the amount of like flavors and stuff because of all the higher alcohol. It kind of permeates your sinuses and kind of gets everything everywhere.
I didn't get as much sweet on the initial palate, but what I did through the mid palate is where it got interesting to me because that's where the wood started to kind of creep in and you would get a little bit of oakiness, but I also got the, like a iced, hot tea, and then moved into black tea, got a little bit bitter on the late finish. And then the wood kind of came up a little more. It's definitely not a overly like sherried or peated. I mean, it's one of those really classic meaty meat and potatoes kind of whiskeys. It's got that body to it. I think
It's got a ton of flavor and it lasts a long time.
Yeah. The finish is exceptionally long for a whiskey, especially an unpeated whiskey.
Yeah.
It just keeps going.
Almost, I would say even a bit of chai tea and just a barrel influence, man. Like it's just getting so much of that oak and maltiness out of it as well. It's a very good, strong base.
I'm getting a lot more sweet on the initial palate now that with the second and third.
Well, I add some water to this one. I think it's going to handle it fine.
I did get your black tea on the second sip. I think it was a little, I had so much of the spice and other things going on that I couldn't get to it. But by the second sip, it was
So
definitely.
when you say spice, is it just cinnamon or is it?
No, I had like a little like clove and nutmeg kind of thing going on, and they came in waves, so it was kind of nice because it usually when you get baking spices like that, to me it usually hits all kind of at the same time.
Punches you, yeah.
And this was like individual, so you could kind of like it just kind of faded through the mid palate and the finish. It was really nice.
Water is great on the nose, gentlemen.
Well, I'm letting it sit on that. A lot of things. After my first taste, I went back into the nose and I could actually get some of that barley on the nose. And it was really interesting. I really love the long finish of it. You guys all hit the points on the spiciness and stuff like that. I was trying to get the actual barrel wood on the bottle, and it doesn't
Yeah,
say.
it doesn't say.
Interestingly enough, it does say it's kosher, so no surprise on there. But the only thing that I did find on the bottle labeling that's a little bit confusing to me is the whole bottle. It's put out there for being matured in the Dead Sea, but if you read the label, it says in this little circle, distilled, matured, and bottled in Tel Aviv. So is Tel Aviv in the Dead Sea?
No.
I think it was, but
They moved him.
I think that's probably just a standard stamp they put on all their labels, and this particular one is actually special because they did move the barrels to a certain place in the Dead Sea for this maturing. But
They just roll them out next to it.
well, like you said, it's only 17 miles, I guess. Is what you
I don't know if that's right.
I think you want to leave them out in the
It's
sun.
not- I think it's more than that. But so this with water held up. I mean, I really
Really
didn't
nice.
detect anything. What I did get on with water is I got a lot of it just balanced better. So there's some bitterness and some potency that comes with that higher ABV, and I think it's an easier drinking whiskey when you add the water, but it doesn't lose any of the flavor component. So I think that's great. Are we ready to?
Oh, keep
Yeah,
go
go for it.
All right.
Keep going.
So it is an expensive bottle. It is not my wheelhouse. It is a meat and potatoes kind of whiskey. So it is something you would be willing to share with anyone. So that puts it in probably that 3 range, 2.5, 3. It's a little expensive for me. So maybe the whiskey's good enough though to share. You wouldn't ever be ashamed to do it. I'm gonna go 2.5 because I think the price is a little high. I think the whiskey is quite good, but it doesn't like blow me away to a point where like everybody's got to try this whiskey in my view. But it's a good whiskey. So 2.5 for me.
Okay, I think you're a little low, honestly. I think this is definitely better than that. The price, I'll definitely agree with. It's a little high for what would you say, 3-year-old? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So I mean that hurts it a little bit, but it's very interesting to me. The story's kind of nice. We talked about everything already as far as flavors and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't really add too much more. I will say the water nose is better, but the palate was a little weaker, but it's still pretty good. The fact that the ABV is high, you can play with it and adjust that, but still phenomenal. It's got vast flavors going on when you can sit there and pull different things. I think I had some different spices, like even pine coming out earlier. It's just pretty cool.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think it's a really strong whiskey for what they're producing. Kudos. Good job.
So water has been interesting. Like I've actually really, and that's kind of my cutoff. If it's a good whiskey and it can hold up the water and neat and brings me some new nuance and flavors, I'm about it. And I got dried peaches with the water,
Yeah.
and so there's like a slight fruity note coming out. There's sweetness, like the spice kind of tamed down a little bit with the water, but it allowed other flavor profiles to come through. It's just really nice. $150 is a little expensive. I'm not gonna lie, but you're getting a 56%
Right.
ABV
Good
whiskey.
point. Yeah.
So that's not nothing.
Unique.
I'm going to give them that. And honestly, I'm not going to knock them for the 3 years because it's a hot climate. It's going to age faster anyway.
It's about the
So,
quality of the whiskey.
You're right. So it's more like an Indian whiskey or something like that that's aging in a hot climate. It just goes faster. So you can't really take that into consideration. So
Fair.
very good, well-balanced whiskey. I enjoy it. If somebody poured me something else from these guys, I'd be very interested to
Yeah.
try it. I'm debating between a 3 and a 3.5. I'm going to give it a solid 3 just because it didn't have quite enough interesting things going on in the glass for me to bump it up to a 3.5, but it was close.
Okay.
All right, so I'm right there too. I'm like, man, I'm not getting a 3.25, and I can't do
Nope.
that. So what? How do I do this? What you guys hit all the points. The palate, the nose, that the ABV is good. I do like a higher ABV whiskey. I do like to be able to play with it with the water and get it where I want it in the mood that I'm in. And I do like the fact that it held the water and it brought a lot of stuff into it. Yes, the price, of course, is high, but I do like the fact that I'm willing to pay the price for, number one, it's an Israeli whiskey, which is interesting to me because it's not like they're cranking out a ton of whiskey over there, right? It's
Yeah.
not like it's plethora of whiskey there. The effort that they went through to mature this provides a different, unique experience as well. So I'll give on that. One thing I want to note is I'm not really a big bourbon or rye guy, but honestly, I could see rye guys.
Oh,
enjoying
yeah.
this.
I
I
think
could
you're
see
right.
a
I
rye
think you're
drinker
right. Yeah.
popping
Yeah.
into this and being like, damn, that's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
Because it does bring a lot of that spicy note to
Yep.
it. So I'm curious to see how it would be received in the rye community. But being that I was at 3.25 and you were at 3.25 and you went down to 3. I'm going to go up to 3.5 and balance it out so we both get to where we were. You know,
Fair enough. I'll take you.
Feel good, but
Makes the math hard though.
But I'm pleasantly surprised. I definitely am impressed with what they're doing there. And yes, I do have a couple of different bottles that we'll probably get to. You know, we bought 4 bottles that night, and we didn't buy them because they were bad. I can tell you that much.
Truth.
We went through the whole tasting. So kudos to Milk and Honey.
Yeah. 3.5, 3.5, 2.5, 3.
3.
All right.
So
There you
it's
go.
like 3.125,
something.
give it something like
Yeah.
that.
Great job. Super excited.
Yep.
Cheers.
Get a bottle.
One.